Quit flexing. You're scaring all the chicks away.
Hey everybody, it's Aaron from Corlane Sporting Goods, and welcome to episode 2 of Hunt Hard, Talk Free. This episode is brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee Company of Canada, some of the best coffee grounds out there. On this episode, we've got Nathan Aasen of Yukon Peak Outfitters, and he's got quite the stories to tell us. So let's get this ball rolling. You two have known each other since high school and been hunting partners forever. Is that a
pretty much
statement?
just out of high school for you, eh? I'm quite a bit older than Nathan.
Yeah.
More mature, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think we've been sheep hunting. Our first sheep hunt was 2004, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
So many moons.
Our first year we sheep hunted, not together, and then our second year we started sheep hunting together, and then it's just sort of blossomed
Snowballed
from there.
yeah.
And pretty much all of our sheep hunts have been together for, the duration. We've pretty much been on almost every ram we've each other's been on. The other person's been there, so.
Yeah, we both are sitting on 3/4 slams that we were both single rams. So we, I shot the first bighorn. Nathan packed it out for me. I paid back the favor later in life. He did a bighorn hunt back and forth that way. Yeah, and I think, the first ram I killed was with you. Yeah, we archery killed rams that year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for the first one, hey? Way to start it off. But, and then it's, like I say, I've been working in the gun world and doing all that, and Nathan does a lot of the guiding and outfitting on the other side and has evolved into that. So,
awesome. So how long have you been guiding and outfitting?
Been guiding for 8 years. I worked for Stan and Helen Stevens in the Northwest Territories. It's just been an amazing experience. My brother, same thing. We both worked for Stan and Helen, and so now this year, Rob has an opportunity to run an area in the Yukon in the southwest corner, Yukon Peak Outfitters. So both of us are making the move west out to the Yukon and trying our hand out there. So. And
just so the listeners know, who's Rob?
Rob's my brother.
And how long has he been guiding?
Same amount of time as I have. I started 1 year before Rob. Other than that, everything's about the same. So he's been doing it just as long as I have, and so we're just kind of starting the next chapter of our life, and we're super excited about it. So. And
tell us about the company, Yukon Peak Outfitters. Is it been around for a while, just brand new? Give us a little rundown.
So Yukon Peak Outfitters was formerly Kelowna Outfitters. The Olmsted family ran it, and so it's located right in the very southwest corner of the Yukon. And actually, Greg and I, we've hunted in the northwest corner of BC, and it's literally just on the north border of where me and Greg have hunted a few different times. So Alaska's the border to the west, BC's the border to the south. It's tucked right in the corner. It's been I think a really good, really underutilized area for a long time. So there's a lot of diversity there. It's hard to access. So I think it's been a great opportunity for us. So.
And when it comes to Yukon Peak, is the focus specifically on rams, or do they offer a variety of hunts?
I think the biggest part's going to be sheep hunts and moose hunts. That's where most of our allocation sits. We also have, there's a few caribou allocations, there's a few wood buffalo, and there's 5 grizzly bear a year, which is really good.
Grizzly bear. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something we'll get into here a little bit later about BC. But it's interesting that the Yukon still allows grizzly hunts. Is there any word of it getting shut down up there?
No, as far as I know, it's not. I think for the most part, the Yukon's had pretty good allocations compared to BC. For us having a relatively small area and to have 5 bears a year be able to take out of it is huge for us. Whereas guys in BC with similar sized areas in the past would probably only have 1.5, 2 bears a year. That would be their allocation, right? So five's really good. Yeah. 5, you can make a difference, right?
And probably coming from an area with a less concentration of bears with a higher allocation. So the harvest, compared to BC, who has a very good sustainable population of bears, and they really strangle the amount allocated to the outfitters too, or have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
we'll loop back around to bears, but back to Yukon Peak. How many guides are there within the company?
There's probably going to be, throughout the course of the year, there's going to be about 4 guides and probably 3 to 4 wranglers. So we have backpack hunts and horse hunts. I'm not a horse guy one bit, so I'll be doing backpack hunts. So the start of our season, me and my friend Gary Crookshank will be doing backpack hunts, and my brother Rob and Stevie Hansen will be doing the horse hunts, and then they're both going to have their own wranglers going with them. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And what's it like for booking right now? Are you guys getting pretty booked up? If someone's looking for this fall, are there still openings?
This fall would be probably extremely unlikely at this point to get an opening. Most good reputable outfitters are going to be booked up 2 to 3 years in advance, depending on the type of hunt you're looking for. So yeah, if you're wanting to book a sheep hunt for this fall, your chances are pretty slim. It's July, so
yeah,
like Aaron, you're going to be hunting sheep for yourself in a week, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, plan for next year.
Yeah,
yeah,
gotcha. And when it comes to, you say there's going to be 4 guides working with you guys, or 4 of you all together. If someone's looking at getting into it as a career, what are your thoughts on that? What are your recommendations? If you could give them some words of wisdom, what would you say?
Well, I'll break your question up just a little bit. Like,
Yep.
I get a lot of people that ask me, should I guide? A lot of people, they hum and haw on it. My dad's a prime example of a guy that used to live in Cassiar, had an opportunity to guide, never did it. Now he's almost 70, regrets it every day. I think for anybody that is possibly humming and hawing on it, I think you should absolutely go for it. The amount of hunting experience and knowledge you can gain by even one season of guiding is unbelievable. Like, you think of good sheep hunters around here, and I would say a good sheep hunter probably has maybe 5 rams they've been in on, 5 ram kills throughout the course of their career. You can possibly get that in one guiding season. You could get 5, that's what we used to guide, 5-6 ram hunts a year.
Yep.
So you're on 5-6 potential sheep kills a year. That amount of experience alone, you think about, you're constantly watching, observing rams, their behavior, and even if you only guide for 1 or 2 seasons, you're going to be a much better sheep hunter outside of it because of that. So
just how much you learn from the other guys you're with, and just the amount of time you spent in the bush.
100%. So that experience alone is second to none. And then I think as far as yourself, if you're or anybody young that's wanting to become a guide or a wrangler or something, I would say to find, it's a lot like booking a hunt too, in a sense that you should maybe try to find an outfitter that suits your style. Like for us, in the Northwest Territories, we are not a cowboy outfit at all. Like, we did 100% backpack hunts, and we had quite a few cowboy guides come and go. They were one-year wonders, and I think they probably would have worked out better in working for Gaina River, who's strictly a cowboy outfit or something. So I think finding something that
fits your niche.
Yeah, ticks all your boxes. If you're not, like, me and Greg are not cowboys, so why would we go and work for a horse outfitter? It would be a complete disaster, right?
Yeah.
100%. And so I think just finding stuff that works for you. One thing that was super important to me when I started guiding is I wanted hunting opportunities for myself, and some outfitters are dead against having their guides do any personal hunting, and some outfitters are all for it, and Stan was good with it. So, like, my goal was, when I started guiding Dall sheep, I wanted to eventually take a Dall sheep for myself, right? So that was a huge deal breaker for me. If Stan wouldn't have been up for that, I probably would have shopped around and looked for somewhere else to go. So
is it common for guides to be hunting during the season? Well, it's obviously during the season, but if you're booked up every week another hunt, do guides take turns and get a week off that they hunt themselves? Or
not so much. Usually what we would do is it would usually be near the end of the year, whenever, or sometimes like Stan's area was really good. And a lot of times we'd get done our hunts early. And usually we did most of the guide. The guide opportunities were always later in the season. Say we're moose hunting and everybody gets tagged out, and it's, Greg's year to try to get a ram for himself. And me and Greg would take off for, 3-4 days of that hunt kind of thing. And
it doesn't look real professional if your guides are out hunting for themselves. It seems like competition against.
Absolutely.
Like paying
So if you
clients.
come back to camp and you've got a 40-inch ram,
Yeah.
and the guy you guided before has a 38-inch ram, it's not good PR.
Yeah.
Because you're instantly gonna think, well, why didn't we go after that sheep if it was available?
Yeah.
Why is mine small? That kind of thing.
Yep.
So you just want to keep it at a personal level and just go out on your own. Even like up in the territories, you have to be guided as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it actually takes 2 guides
Yep.
to do a hunt. So there's got to be some free bodies around to really take advantage of that, because you've got to be hosted or guided if you're not a resident at that time, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
So it takes a lot of labor, and then again moving stuff around. Stan's not just gonna fly you around to go hunting unless he's got some spare time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So-
it all
Yeah,
costs
it kind
money.
of it just kind of has to work out basically, as far as your time goes, and you're also not going to shoot a sheep on your first year guiding for someone. This is an added perk that comes with, like,
Years
for
of
me, I
experience.
got a caribou on my 5th year, and I got a sheep on my 6th year, so that's kind of what you can expect, or not expect, depending on who you work for, right?
And as long as you're putting out hard too.
Yeah. I mean,
if you're-
the results have to be there. Like I say, everything has to work out. But that was just a factor for me that I really wanted in an outfit, and they were amazing for that. So yeah.
That's awesome. So you mentioned a little bit about if you want to get into guiding, the way to do it. But what kind of person does it take to be a guide?
You have to be completely driven, like Greg or myself are. Like, if you're not going to enjoy it, and you're going to fail at it. I think a lot of people see you see a lot of pictures of a big ram and a guide behind it and a hunter, and everybody wants that sort of instant glory, that instant satisfaction, but most people don't realize how much energy and work and blood, sweat, and tears goes into getting to that moment, right?
Yeah.
So if hunting and the adventurous part, if that doesn't define you as a person, you're kind of wasting your time, I think.
Yeah.
It really has to be passion number one for you to get into it and enjoy it and do good at it. So
You put the sweat down and you put a moose down. Once the knives start coming out, I mean, you don't realize how much work is behind the scenes. I mean, after the photos are done,
That's
it
when the
takes
work
you
begins.
a full day to cape out, turn ears, lips, eyes, deal with meat, movement of gear, hunters, fix up everything that's broken. I mean, you are on the clock from sun up to sundown, and there's not a lot of, if something isn't done, no one else is doing it for you. So and it's nice. You got to be social too. You got to be able to work with lots of different people, because you never know who's going to land on your lap, right?
What kind of clientele do you normally get?
Everything.
Yeah. I've been super blessed. Most of our clients have been, I'd say probably 85% are American, and they've been great, actually. I really can't complain about what we've had. I mean, you hear lots of horror stories, and I think a lot of people speculate that it's just a babysitting service, but in reality, for what we've experienced, I think 80 to 90% of the hunters are just like I would be going out with yourself, Aaron, or Greg, and you get some people that are,
and I think it's
obviously not
species
that
related
easygoing.
too.
Yeah, for sure.
You're coming up for a moose or a sheep, caribou. You're going a long way. You're out of the way. You're not booking, say a cost basis, black bear hunt somewhere where you're attracting who knows what kind of clientele. These people, like you say, are driven and motivated to do that hunt. So they're not going to come with a bad attitude or anything like that. They're really excited to be there.
It's an elite, like we discussed on the last podcast. It's kind of the elite high-end hunt that anyone might be able to go out in their backyard and shoot a deer or an antelope if you're in southern Alberta or wherever. But this is one very limited locations and very difficult hunts as far as hunts go, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So you're getting the elite people, hopefully.
Yeah,
wanting
and
to
I mean
do these
that's.
hunts.
Yep.
But with elite people, you have people that are, maybe they're not morning people, right? They don't want to get up till 10 o'clock. You have to work within that
Yep.
and try and keep them motivated when the weather's bad and the times aren't great. Maybe you're not seeing animals, they're not moving. You just got to keep them motivated and moving. And yeah. I'm always pretty comfortable around any situation. I mean, you deal with what I do in a day. I talk to a million people.
Yeah.
You know about guns. You know about optics. You have lots of things to talk about. Tips to help,
Yeah.
and then stories to go along with it. Right. So instantly they feel warmer to you.
Yeah.
Everything rolls smooth. If they get a bad feeling about you as a guide, it isn't going to disappear.
Yeah.
Right. You sell yourself. Show them what it's about. Right.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Do most clients bring their own firepower, or do you guys supply them with
Yeah,
guns?
pretty much. All of them have actually, and this year's kind of cool because we got Gunworks has actually sponsored the outfit, so we have that gun right there is up at our camp, 6.5 PRC, and also a 300 mag. So we have two pretty amazing guns that we're gonna potentially can loan out to hunters or whatever. But for the most part, what I've seen at stands, we had like a Camp 270 and a Camp 300, and a lot of times we'd send that with a bow hunter because every bow hunter is exclusively a bow hunter until day 4, and then they're a gun hunter, right? So
when they couldn't get close enough.
So I think our camp guns have been used probably more for either self-defense or for bow hunts that turn into gun hunts, or there's been a few guys logistics wise. I think there's a guy coming to stands from Norway this year, and there's a few countries that's hard to get a gun into Canada. So,
I set up stand with a gun exclusively for that. It was like, I need a good all-around rugged gun again, so I set him up with a 300 Win mag, dressed up, put an optic on it, so that he has another. Because it's getting harder and harder, and then if anything goes wrong. Stuff gets lost. Your gun will end up getting there, but 2 weeks later. So with that case scenario, you better have something better than a Cooey laying around for a hunter to go out with. Right?
How'd you get hooked up with Gunworks?
That's pretty much. So the guy that owns the area is Mark Peterson. He's kind of sponsored by them, and so Rob's holding the outfitting license, right?
Yep.
So this is basically all kind of through Mark, basically.
Okay.
So it's just an awesome perk. So
that
super
in itself is
excited
it's a bit of a drawing feature for some clientele to know that there are these 1,000-yard proven guns. Not that they're going to be shooting sheep at 1,000 yards, and we can discuss that in a bit too.
Yeah, for sure.
But that the guns are on point, doing what they're supposed to do.
Sure.
You're stepping into the best of the best, realistically.
And we spent time behind him when Rob got him. We went out, we dialed him in, shot him with Stevie and Rob.
Everybody that's going to be
there
shot the guns, right?
Got to learn how it works. I mean, don't just send a guy out to the field with a tool that it's all speculation. You want to see how it works. You want to make sure it's legitimately ready for those elevation conditions, etc. And we did that.
Yeah.
We took him out to better than 700 yards and all through the range, and worked out ideal.
Yeah.
And when it comes to whether you're trying to get into guide, like we've talked about the guides and about the clientele, is it worth touching off-season, getting prepared, training, that sort of thing?
Oh,
'cause, I mean, I got to say, I've seen you at the gym and you kill it, and you put everyone else in the building to shame because you are just, whether it's pictures coming up on social media of the races you're winning, because you didn't you just finish a team triathlon? You took second overall. Yeah.
First loser.
This man is a machine. He says first loser, but he knocks down everybody else in the gym. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts on physical prep or off-season training.
I think you could ask a lot of different people. You get a lot of different answers. But for me, we're going up and we're climbing a mountain here. Like, this is not. I feel like you have to prepare for this.
Yeah.
I know I do. There's a lot of guides that I work with that are, I think they get by because of youth and maybe genetics. You know, they might hike in the off season, or you know, they live relatively active lifestyles. But when you're in your mid 20s or whatever, you can still kind of accomplish everything. So like for example, like when me and Greg started hunting together, Greg was far superior than I was. He absolutely crushed me on my first year of hunting. Yeah. And after that year, I was like, that's not happening anymore. So literally, I mean, I literally got into pretty much working out after that. So now my off season, I'm huge into CrossFit. I do local competitions. I don't have any aspirations as going to the CrossFit Games or anything. I use this to be better at hunting and guiding. I also do kickboxing with Cody and Lisa Mears, and then I just recently started doing some small marathon triathlon type stuff as well. So I think it's extremely important. The more work you put in the off season at the gym, grinding it out, banging it out, is going to make your hunt way more enjoyable and successful. So I think for guides, we're still young, we're still fit, we're still active, but honestly, these hunts are really expensive. So we're not going to book a lot of hunters that are 30 years old, right? We're booking guys that are 50, 60, 70 years old. So they really need to put the work in the off season for their hunt to be enjoyable and successful. So whatever you do, I'm not promoting CrossFit or kickboxing or anything, but whatever you do is going to be more beneficial than doing nothing. Absolutely.
Get out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
And now Nathan crushes me.
Greg is a specimen of his own that natural, tough to keep up with for anyone else that isn't Nathan. Yeah. But that's awesome. What about mental toughness, grit? Are there a lot of people that think they want to do these hunts and then they get there and they're like, can't handle it, can't do it?
Absolutely. We probably have, I would say 1 to 2 hunts a year where people quit. They give up and they go home. And every outfit will attest to this. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, you know, say from the lower 48, especially that don't live on the west, they really have almost no idea what they're getting themselves into. And always, as guides, we always have quitters. And it's honestly the worst feeling in the world is coming back to camp with a quitter. I don't know. There's not a lot you can do. Like you're kind of trying to be an ego booster as well as a guide. You're
cheerleading.
There's a million different things, and another really interesting thing that's worked for me, because I'm not a great people person. I'm really short with people, and I think I expect a lot out of my hunters. Like Greg has phenomenal people skills. I don't have that skill set, not at all. Yeah. So one thing that is really saved my hunt, I'll just touch briefly on it, is either sheep hunts or moose hunts. I've had numerous times where I've had hunters that were almost ready to quit, and honestly what saved the hunt was caribou. Caribou saved the hunt. We had a caribou tag. You know, we have a guy that quit the day before on a sheep, comes down the mountain, wants to get picked up, wants to go home, and next day, clippity clop, here comes a caribou through camp or close to camp. He shoots it. His his ego's boosted, his self-esteem's up. Yeah. I've probably had that happen 5 or 6 times, and honestly, you wouldn't think it, but 5 or 6 times that caribou has saved the ultimately the course of our whole hunt. Yeah. Yeah. And we've went on to kill a sheep and a moose or whatever because of that caribou. Yeah. It's crazy.
The stepping stone, eh?
It's crazy to think. And that just shows you, like, they always could physically do it. They just all of a sudden they got thrown to the wolves their first day, and we're like, man, I didn't know it was going to be like this.
They get the 50-pound pack on and they're heading up the mountain and didn't prepare for it.
Didn't prepare for it, and and all of a sudden they're done, and then the next day they're not done. All of a sudden, maybe I can do this. Yeah. You know? So, yeah, it's really interesting. Something you wouldn't think of, but...
So you need the physical pre-season prep to be ready for it, but you also need to have that mental grit or toughness
for sure.
to be able to get through it.
And I think a lot of people a lot of people that are out of shape always tell me how mentally tough they are, and I'm like, you better be mentally tough then. Like the more physically fit you are, you don't have to be as mentally tough.
Yeah.
But if you're way out of shape or whatever your deal is, man, you got to be like Charles Xavier upstairs, man. Right? You got to be on another level mentally. So, yeah, show up in shape.
Yeah.
And your hunt will be better. Bottom line.
Yeah.
100%.
So, what are your thoughts on? We see it on social media a lot. We see it in the news. What are your thoughts on sustenance hunting versus trophy hunting?
I'm probably almost more of a meat hunter personally than I am a trophy hunter.
Yeah.
A lot of it's just because I live a super healthy lifestyle, so I try to eat like my meat is pretty much all organic. I would say it's all wild. But I mean, trophy hunting gets a bad rap. I mean, trophy hunting's not cutting the head off and strapping on your back and walking back to camp, right? That's how it's perceived, but that's not at all what it's like. I mean, trophy hunting's taking an animal that's past his prime, harvesting it. He's done contributing everything that he can to his
to the
species.
genetics and the species, yeah.
And like Greg touched on it a little bit on your guys' first podcast of sheep are the one thing we can use as example because we know exactly how old they are, right? We don't know exactly how old that caribou is. We have ways of.
There's indicators.
There's indicators of
mane colors
it's
and
maybe
things like
6,
that.
it's maybe 9. It's got a really white cape, so it's probably mature. But with sheep, I mean, we can be like, yeah, that's an 8-year-old ram, that's 7, that's 10, sort of thing. And Greg touched on it perfectly. Like, you taking those rams that are preferably even older than 8 is better. Like if in the territories the age average goes up significantly, and that's just a result of less hunting pressure than we have in BC. So BC, we're going to have an age average of probably 8 years old on rams killed, and in the territories it's going to be probably 10 and a half. So those rams that are in 10 and a half plus, they're absolutely in their bonus years. They're not the likelihood of them breeding anymore is pretty slim at that age. So it's absolutely important to take that, and again we're utilizing every part of the animal. So if that's what trophy hunting is, then I'm proud to call myself a trophy hunter.
So the older, it's not, you're looking at trophy hunting not as, you're not just going out shooting an animal to hang the head on the wall. You're looking at, you're leaving the young males of whatever species it is to continue to repopulate and build the herds up and that sort of thing, and you're taking the elderly that are no longer contributing to the herds and they may kick off in the next year or two anyways.
Natural mortality is going to get them.
100%.
So that, yes, they are larger, they are the nicer trophy on the wall, but it's allowing those younger ones to continue to grow the species and stuff. So it's more sustainable if you're taking the big ones instead of going in and wiping out all the 8-year-olds.
Absolutely.
And not a lot of the rams that you take that are like 15-year-old rams often get taken. They're actually not the cranker rams typically you would think of. They're usually a smaller ram altogether, and just kind of limp through. And those really big rams that you see really peak at 9 and 10 years old, those ones just go so hard that they just kill themselves. You never see you never see a 15-year-old just
40 plus inch
ram.
No, it's crazy. You'd think you would, but Greg's right, and I don't know why that is in a lot of ways, but a lot of the biggest rams we've taken are, probably anywhere from, maybe 9 to 11, kind of in that range. And they just don't seem to survive past that naturally on their own. So, but Greg's 100% right on that.
And as far as trophies go, you think of what you perceive as your trophy. You think of your first buck. That's the best trophy you have. Your first ram, best trophy you have. Guarantee you it's not the biggest. Guarantee you didn't, pass up other ones to take a bigger one, right? So the perception of trophy, whose trophy?
I still have my first little fruit basket whitetail hanging in the garage.
Absolutely.
And that one will always be there.
And did you utilize everything from it?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. what you take back from the hunt, it all adds up.
Yep.
A trophy's a trophy. It's a moment in your life. When you got third place in a race, you kept your ribbon.
Yeah.
No one complains about that. You're seeking a trophy in that sense. It's a personal achievement.
Yeah.
So hunting has a bonus.
Yeah.
Meat, hiking, outdoor lifestyle, everything to go along with it. And if it floats your boat, trophy hunter through and through then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Along with that, what are your thoughts on hunting as it's portrayed through social media, or possibly the effects of social media on hunting?
I'm I'm super new with social media, so I pretty much got social media like 6 months ago, and I wasn't a huge fan of it in the hunting world, and I've kind of more used it just to get out of my shell and get in touch with the world, so to speak. I think as far as it goes with hunting, it's here now. It's here to stay. As far as social media and hunting mix, it's really not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's really up to us as hunters to put the right things out there. Because let's be honest, like if you're an anti-hunter, you almost can't go on social media now without seeing a hunting photo somewhere along the lines, right? Yep. So I think for us, like we were talking about a little bit before, is instead of having a sheep head on the outside of your pack, like let's have a moose quarter hanging out of our pack. Let's just do a better job of promoting this, so that not everybody's going to approve of hunting, but I think if we do a better job of why we hunt and the whole experience behind it, I think people would be a lot more understanding in the future on, that is pretty cool. They actually use everything from that animal. That's really cool.
Yep.
That's really cool. I thought they just cut the head off and walked away, and there's certain things like predators are a super touchy subject, like you see on social media, like Cecil the lion. If that thing had never made social media, it probably wouldn't have exploded the way it did.
Yeah.
Those are real touchy. Like a moose that you eat and use, nobody seems to care. But man, if there's a dead cougar, a dead bear, like they're super important to hunt those animals and manage those animals. But it's also, I think we just have to be really careful of how we put that out there, and making sure we're doing it for the right reasons, and we can attract more people that aren't into our sport. So
I had a customer in the store that we were talking about when did hunting get a negative spin, and it seems to go all the way back to we can thank Walt Disney for Bambi. And from that movie on is when the hunter is seen as the bad guy that's just out driving the back roads, swigging beer and shooting everything that moves kind of thing. Right. And I think with social media, with the presence of people like Joe Rogan or Steve Rinella, those are the types of people that are putting a positive spin back on it, showing that they are sustenance hunting. They're utilizing the animal, and show that it's not just about killing. It's the hunt. And I mean, when people are smiling in the picture with their kill, it's not, hey, look, I killed something, I'm happy. No. It's, I've worked the last 6 months hitting the gym hard, hiking the mountain, and I've outsmarted this animal in its natural. They've got way better sight than we do. They got way better sense of smell. Like, they should be able to dominate us in their surroundings, and it's just all the hard effort that you've put in paid off. Absolutely. And that's what we're happy about as hunters. So I think with a lot of these big figures in social media that are pro hunters, there's a lot of positivity coming off of it. For sure. But there's definitely a bunch of negative things that come up too, where people are trying to rub it in anti-hunters.
They're shopping for the one photo that they can just trash a hunter with. And which is another thing, if you're going to post it on social media, the world is going to see it.
Yeah, anyone and everyone.
So why would you post certain pictures, even if it is 100% legal, you're well within your rights to harvest that animal or this and that. You can share it within your circle, but remember, the world can end up seeing everything. So do our sport a favor. And the other thing too is, I mean, as hunters, people think that we just take. because we're killing animals. This furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah.
Hunters, I mean, across North America contribute so much of their income, time. We're responsible for a lot of the counts and studies and just input for chronic wasting, bringing heads to the table, for examination, isolating areas. All the rams that we've harvested or everyone's harvested over the years have basically blueprinted a DNA spectrum on the genetic differences between herds of sheep in different areas.
Yeah.
So, it's countless things like that through our compulsory inspections and things like that. So the database and the science-based, which everything should be based on, is the science aspect for numbers and how many allocations and everything should be that, not on a gut reaction to a social media post that grizzly bears are endangered, which isn't really the truth, right?
Which we'll get to in just a moment. I like the path we're going on right here, and I'm looking, and you're wearing a Wild Sheep Society BC T-shirt, and sheep hunters, a lot of them locally are members of the Wild Sheep Society.
Yep.
And what do organizations like this do for giving back to nature?
Prescribed burns, buying up lands or keeping domestic sheep away from herds. Like, basically, the Mackenzie Mountains and things like that. I just read from a Wild Sheep post here the other day that they banned basically all goat and sheep out of the Mackenzies, and what's the other mountain system up there? The Rankins, or another small chain up there. There is no domestic sheep or goats allowed within that area, period.
So
they have banned it because of the transfer of domestic disease into the sheep.
Gotcha.
It would decimate that sheep population. It'd be like smallpox when we landed here. That's the kind of catastrophic results that can happen from someone who just decides that they have 4 sheep and they get out, or they live on the edge of a mountain range and the sheep come down. They transfer that a lot of the pneumonia type strains to them. MOV, I do believe, is what it is. A lot of that, and it will just crush that wild sheep population.
Yeah. There's a new nonprofit that has been around for a couple months here, and it's somewhat tied into wild sheep, but it's One Campfire. I don't know if you've heard of it yet, but it's kind of crossing these bridges that we're talking about. It's trying to bring everybody from the hunting world to we could call it granola vegan outdoor enthusiasts, and everyone in between, and showing that no matter what, we all sit around one campfire. We're all coming back to a campfire. And no matter what you're doing out there, we need to work together to protect the species, protect the environment, work together, and not fight each other, which is what's happening on social media. And you get groups like PETA that are pushing hard on one aspect, and if you kind of agree with it, you can jump on board with that. Right. And then you got the other people that are like, oh, well, we'll use that PETA image over we just take pictures, not animals or whatever, and put that on our hunting photos. And so we have our polar extremes that are battling it out. And groups like One Campfire, which their whole focus is, guys, don't fight about it. Let's all get back together and focus on what we need to fix. Absolutely. And so we can all enjoy the outdoors, and our kids will be able to down the road as well.
Equal opportunity. I mean, that's what it boils down to. I mean, we don't leave a big footprint out there. I mean,
we don't.
You move in, you move out, you scout. You're not taking or you're not paving roads into these places. I mean, you want that wild. Simple as that. And that's where that's the attraction, right?
Yeah. And along with all the social media, I've been doing so much prep for this sheep hunt, going online, doing all sorts of research, looking up gear lists, looking up whatever I can, maps. Spent so much time on Google Earth, it would blow your mind. Just zooming in, looking at stuff.
Looking for sheep, I swear I can see
Is there a
right
photo
on
of a
that
sheep?
Mountain. Yeah.
But along with that, I've come across quite a few sheep hunting forums that some are closed groups, some are open groups, and guys are getting on there and sharing information about sheep hunting, where to go, what to take. And there's some people that are even putting GPS locations on there, which you talk to guys that have put in 20, 30 years to map out areas, to figure out where they want to hunt, and then someone just puts a pin on a map and puts it out there for the world. What are your thoughts on these groups and forums and stuff like that for sheep hunting?
I think you have to take all that stuff with a grain of salt. For myself, like I'm not giving anybody a pin drop. I don't really care who they are, man. It took years to figure this spot out or this spot out. About the only time I would give someone an X on the map, so to speak, is if it was an LEH area and particularly a hard draw area to get. I would be inclined to help somebody with stuff like that. But as far as general open season area goes, I'm friends with a lot of the outfitters that areas I've hunted in their areas. I'm not giving them anybody. Sorry, Aaron.
Sorry, my phone was vibrating in the background there. Had to shut that down.
Yeah, so I think that stuff you got to take with a grain of salt. You can get good pointers on forums. You know, like I remember one guy was talking about. I don't spend much time on forums either, Aaron, but one guy was talking about an old sheep guide that he killed. I think it was 80% of his rams on south-facing slopes. So that's a super good pointer, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't always work that way. I've killed rams on north and south slopes, but you think south. Okay, that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
So maybe from south you can go and see on Google Earth. You can see a creek in the bottom. You can see cliffs for escape routes. You can see grass for food, and you have everything that a ram needs, and go from there. But as far as the other stuff goes, I think you're better off to do your own legwork on that one.
Old school.
Absolutely.
Unplug and get out there.
There's so much BS on that stuff.
Who is behind the curtain, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is an expert when there's no accountability to it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, like our hunting in the far northwest or northeast corner of BC, I could put an X on the map of every single sheep that I've seen in that area.
Yeah.
And not one time have I been back in there and that X was overlapped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They've never occurred in the same, and that's the same time of year, you know, just different conditions, weather patterns, things like that. And the sheep are not there. Mm-hmm. So I could draw you 50 X's on the map. You'll walk in there and it's a desert. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
I mean, we walked into a valley on our second time in there or whatever, you know, just on speculation. We'd been in there before and seen game, and in decent number. We rolled into there. What did we see? I think we seen a porcupine and a grizzly bear in the whole time in this valley. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing was there. Mm-hmm. Was it a good area to go look? Absolutely. You're going to find out if there's sheep in there or not, spend 4 hours and climb in there, because that's how it works. Yeah, I have a hard time with, you know, as you grow and talk to people. I mean, here in the store, for instance, I mean, I get to discuss all sorts of things. I mean, everybody's got a hunting story and everything like that. Information is shared or stories told about areas and things like that. But the first thing and the last thing I'll do is ask you where you shot it or where you were or anything like that. I want to enjoy the story you're going to tell me. And if you say, yeah, I was hunting in Region 7, you know, it was a stone sheep, I'll say, right on, good work. North, you know, right on, that's awesome. But don't pry for information, because it puts a guy in an awkward spot.
Yeah.
Give a guy, like I say, tips on gear, strategies, or maybe, you know,
where to look for rams.
Where to look for rams, or you know, the travel route going in there or whatever. You can give a guy a little heads up and say, hey, yeah, there's, you know, there's an old mining trail that goes in on the back there. Take advantage of that, but once you get to kilometer 10, you're on your own because it's grown in now.
Yeah.
But at least, you know, here's what, you know, maybe you can take a cart in with you to this area, you know, for partial weight, so that if you get overburdened with stuff, you can load it on your cart and it's easier to pack.
Yeah.
You know, where they wouldn't know that they could take a cart 10K in.
Yeah.
Because, you know, how do you know what kind of condition the trail is or access?
But,
you know, it's one of those things. You gotta, everyone's willing to share some good information, but X's on the map, keep that to yourself.
Yeah. In all your time in the backcountry, have you had much for run-ins with grizzlies?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where do you want to start?
So you used to guide in BC before you were in Yukon?
No,
always in Yukon.
Always in Northwest Territories.
Oh,
Yukon's a new thing this year.
Yeah.
So I've, for one, I think grizzly bears are probably next to sheep, they're probably my second favorite animal to hunt. Absolutely love hunting them. They're kind of an animal that personally has had they're like my Achilles heel. taken one really good grizzly bear my whole life. I've had probably 5 tags. Like they've they've just given me
run for your money.
Oh, nightmares. Yeah. Nightmares. And then as far as problems go, like we had two attacks in the Northwest Territories when I was guiding there. One was fatal. One of our hunters got killed the following year. Another one of our hunters got mauled. And like on a side note, like grizzly bears have been protected for about 20 years in the Northwest Territories.
Yep.
And it's not because of lack of grizzly bears. There's a lot of our moose hunts will see more grizzly bears than we'll see moose. So it's completely political, just like it is in BC right now.
Yeah. Residents have the option of one in a lifetime.
One in a lifetime.
In a lifetime.
Yep. In the Northwest Territories.
Wow.
And in the Yukon, I think a resident can take a bear every 3 years. They don't have an LEH on their grizzlies there like we had, but you can buy a tag every 3 years and take one basically wherever you want, right?
So you'd say numbers are pretty healthy when it comes to grizzlies.
Absolutely.
And it's strictly political.
Absolutely.
The bans and stuff like that.
100%.
People link them to teddy bears and big fluffy creatures that
just eat grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, predators in general are, I don't know what it is. They're super sensitive, but they're just like anything. They have to be managed, and I don't know. For us, I'm super excited about a 5 grizzly bear a year quota. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, think of that could be 30, 40 moose calves a year more in our area.
Yep.
Caribou, whatever else, right? And not to mention the revenue that it brings to the outfit, right? So it's huge. It's huge. I'm super, super thankful and blessed that we have that. I just wish we, I wonder if things would have been different if we had it in the Northwest Territories, if those attacks would have still happened. It's so hard to say, right? So,
it's hard to say, but if you're working an outfit all the time and in an area, a lot of the bears you're going to encounter are problem bears. Mm-hmm. Those bears, like different areas like up north there. I mean, I haven't spent extended time guiding up in the territories. I'm relatively small scale compared to what Nathan has done.
Yeah.
But there's areas where there's a boar in that valley that can be a nuisance.
Yeah.
And and he's back in that valley the next year. I mean, bears, they live a long life.
They do.
They have a good memory, and that's why they make them very hard to hunt. You get a 20+ year old grizzly bear, he didn't grow up being dumb.
No.
So
they're extremely smart.
It's such a quality hunt too, and it's a good booster, yeah.
I thought Jim Shockey had an excellent write-up after that woman and her baby were killed up in the Yukon.
Yeah.
Pointing out, I don't want to say pointing the finger at the government, but showing that they're trying to do everything in their power to stay within the rules and the laws and stuff and shoo off the bear instead of putting down the problem bear. Mm-hmm. And he said he knew that this was a problem bear. It was in his area. It had raided their cabins more than once, but they were still advised to leave it alone and stuff. And he felt somewhat responsible that he didn't put that bear down. Mm-hmm. And I thought his letter was it resonated and really made you think that that woman and her baby could be alive today.
Absolutely.
Had they put down the problem bear.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like I say, a problem bear isn't a bear when you come upon a moose kill in the bush and a bear gives you the runaround. That's not a problem bear.
It's just protecting.
That's right.
It's kill.
But when it starts becoming habitual to different things, or they can be very aggressive. Like in the territories, I mean,
they're a different level.
They are on a, like, I'd take any bear around here 10 times over one of those bears up there.
Fist fight with a grizzly.
They play for keeps no matter what. There's no bluff.
Yeah.
There is no bluff. I mean, a lot of bears around here, they've had lots of human interaction. Yeah. They remember potentially different things, and
they've been hunted.
And they've been hunted.
That's different. A hunted bear and a non-hunted bear act completely different, especially 20 years of not hunting.
Yeah.
Right? They've developed a completely different strategy based on us, right? So and like Greg was saying, like our bears here they're probably twice as big as the Arctic bears we get in the Northwest Territories.
Wow.
But those bears are twice as nasty.
Aggressive.
Basically, this a lot of it is the growing season too. So September up here, everything's still lush. September up there, everything's frozen and dead. And those bears go from eating berries to eating meat. They're still going to go to bed probably about the same time our bears do.
Yep.
But their food run out, and they've just gotten to the point of
They're like wolves.
They follow us. Or they don't necessarily follow us, but they know the places where we are hunting moose and caribou at that time.
Yep.
And that's where we have all of our bear problems. Seldom in sheep country and sheep season do we ever have bear problems.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden September comes around and they turn into assholes overnight, basically.
They're just out of food, and you seem like the easier meal following you guys.
Well, our moose are the easier meal, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Our caribou gut piles are the easier meal.
Yep.
And that's just, like I know when after our hunter got killed, the RCMP went out to try to dispatch the bear or whatever. I believe there was 3 different grizzly bears on that moose kill.
Yep.
So they phoned and were like, basically they needed a mugshot as to what bear did it,
Yeah.
And three grizzly bears on a moose in 24 hours with after one of them's killed somebody, that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you identify that one bear if there's many coming in and chewing on
there
them?
was the bear that did it was for the area was a big old dark kind of boar, and they were able to identify it, and they did get the right bear. But
good.
And then the following year, that bear came in on a moose kill, so you kind of realize why he did it. The following year was a bow hunter and a guide sitting on a knob glassing down in the bottoms for moose.
Yep.
And they literally looked behind them, and there was a grizzly bear like 10 yards away, like this. Jumps on the hunter. They tumble down the hill, and once they got done tumbling, the bear's on top of the hunter. The guide shoots it off the hunter, staggers off into the bush. So that bear was completely predatory. There was no dead moose. There was no nothing.
Yep.
I don't know why that bear did that. It seemed like a reasonably healthy bear too. It wasn't like it was
starving,
sick, and its teeth were falling out like that bear in the Yukon was, right?
Yeah.
This was one of those ones where you can't really explain it. So yeah.
But
so
the
I've been
risks of
affected
being
by
in
grizzly bears, to answer your question.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you're not guiding in BC, but you live in BC. You were born and raised in BC. Do you think the grizzly bear ban right now, ban on hunting, is realistic because of numbers of bears? Or
Absolutely not. When I was a kid growing up, and probably everyone here can attest to it, I remember like going out with my dad, and like if you seen a grizzly bear or your neighbor seen a grizzly bear, it was like, man, we seen a grizzly bear today.
Yeah.
That was insane, man. And for example, like south of Tumbler here is probably one of the densest grizzly bear populations in the province. And my nephew had a tag there about 3 years ago, and honest to God, I took him out. We seen 15 grizzly bears in one day. That's ridiculous.
15.
Also, I'll add, we never seen a caribou, we never seen a moose, we never seen an elk, and probably nor will we, right, with numbers like that. So grizzly bears today, at least in my lifetime, there's way more grizzly bears today than there ever was, at least in my lifetime. Before that, I can't speak for that, but the numbers are there.
They're healthy.
And they're province wide. There's grizzly bears in oat fields now, right? Locally, that never happens, right? They're absolutely everywhere.
Right through into Alberta. I mean, they're pouring out everywhere, which, I mean, so utilize that resource. We have an abundance. It's renewable. It's sustainable. It's easy to manage. They're harvesting boars in general. You're not, so you have this carryover. But again, with caribou collapse and moose numbers plummeting and things like that, I mean, they've seen it with the wolf situation, based on the caribou. They've seen it bolster up. They also see the moose numbers are pounding up behind it too. So they know that predators have a key role in this. And bears don't just eat grass. Good news is bears sleep for the winter. Gives the ungulates a little bit of a break, but the wolves take over after that, right? So,
but the age of the bear, what Greg touched on earlier, how old they live, like now, I mean, when you see calf moose up in the northwest corner where we Dall sheep hunt and grizzly bear hunt, you can actually watch moose calve. It's a really awesome place to witness all this. And I mean, moose, like cows will go in the nastiest places, to places that you'd need a snorkel kit to get to. And that's where they're dropping their calves now. And it's to get away from bears. But you take a bear that's like a big old boar, can be 20 years old, right?
Yeah.
He knows, he's played this game before. And whereas maybe a 5 or 6 year old wolf, he's probably not going to kill as many moose calves as a 20-year-old boar that's,
they're dialed in.
Exactly. He knows where those islands are on those rivers, those marshy flats where no other animal's going to go other than a cow moose, and 1 week period of the year. And that's where that bear is, man.
I've seen it on the rivers, like
smart.
Coming down the rivers.
Extremely smart.
And just seeing the predator, like, different times at wolves when the scale was just way out of control. I remember coming down with Rod one day, and in a 45-minute boat ride, we come across 9 different wolves in spread out areas, and then we come into then grizzly bears just crossing the rivers, just one after the other. Like it was predator superhighway. And I mean, the elk were down on the river, and that was at that sweet spot where there was calves getting dumped. And I mean, it was a smorgasbord. Everything in the country. It looked like the salmon run was going up the northern river. There was so many predators down there. Yeah. And that area has had, at the time, 1 permit for a grizzly bear. And I mean, like I say, on a hunt,
one grizzly.
That's
it.
And on a typical hunt, even from a flying hunt that Wayne and I did here last year, from our one camp, and that's just looking at hillside A to hillside B, call it our base camp.
Yep.
We've seen 14 different grizzlies in a 9-day period.
Wow.
Plus, a black bear, but he was on the move because those grizzlies were going to lick him up. And basically, no moose down in the lowland really at that time. The only things around occurred in the high mountains. The goats were fine, the sheep were fine. But everything in the middle, they pay the price. I mean, the mountain critters can get away from them, but everything else kind of has to live in their realm, right?
So politically, if you guys, neither of you are in politics or going into it or anything, but if you, could say something to the politicians, would you recommend getting back into limited entry grizzly hunts or just an open season? What's?
There's no way. As much as it would be awesome to have an open season, there's no way it's ever going to happen. Especially in British Columbia, it's not going to happen. Yeah. I mean, realistically, an LEH is all we're ever going to have. I would like to see it. Ideally, if we had our LEH back and probably our quota doubled compared to what it was, because like I say, like a lot of these grizzly infested areas, we had 1 to 2 bears a year come out of, right? Whereas we should probably have 5 or 6, right? So that's as good as we're gonna get. As much as open would be great, it'll never happen. No. So it's not even anything to try to push for, really.
Right.
The only way you could have an open zone is in an area that was so remote that it limited access, essentially. But and that's not the case. The thing about having a limited entry hunt is that at least I have the chance to pursue one.
Yeah.
I put my name in the hat. If I'm successful, great.
Yep.
But there's opportunity. And those opportunities, again, with limited entry or any hunting, it's not a guarantee. They might issue 10 bear permits in an area, and they're hoping to kill 2. Right?
Yeah.
So, again, based on the numbers and the harvesting, every grizzly killed gets compulsory reported, everything else. So everything is measured to the T.
Yeah.
If a situation where a quota is enlisted in an area where they say it's a general open season until we hit a quota of 20 bears, that works too.
Yeah.
So everybody can hunt those 20 bears. Some people will be successful, some won't. When they hit that number 20, which is their scientific cutoff point of, say, boars, then it's cut off. They send out basically, just like in Alberta on a cougar thing. You check the site, and if it's getting close to the number, that's done.
Yep.
Quota's over. And then you can continue on. But, like I say, LEH would be a fantastic thing because it works.
Yeah.
Gives opportunity.
And you can increase and decrease over year to year, too. If you see that the numbers
instantly.
you can just, boom,
absolutely.
done.
Yeah.
And too many sows get killed, you can adjust that like right now, right? So it's great.
They have the power to do it, and why not? I mean, I find even within BC, I find that the fact that our regulations are posted 2 years in advance, like 2 years, a lot can happen in 2 years.
And we've seen it. We've seen
crushing
amendments.
winter.
Yeah.
And then you have a very liberal season still attached, based on a population that was sound now, collapsed during a massive winter die-off, and then you put the added pressure. And most hunters, like localized hunters, they pull the reins back on their own. They know that the deer, for instance, are in trouble. They rein it back. But someone from outside the local areas, say traveling up, they have no idea really what they're coming up for a general open season. They have no idea what they're coming into if they haven't had intelligence telling them, like, hey, don't bother coming out deer hunting because there are none. And if there are any, just leave them alone because we need some carryover, right? And to be more interactive in that way, and I think they people manage far more than they game manage in that sense, right? So it's cheaper and easier to build a 2-year basis on, on speculation. No, it should be assessed yearly and adjusted accordingly. No one's going to complain. The hunting opportunities are there. You'll have a lot more complaints if there's been massive die-offs and people are still, hunting them aggressively, right? Collapsing your population with no reason to.
So with these bear attacks that have happened in your camps and things like that, I want to ask you a couple gear-related questions. So with those fears, I hear customers come into the store and say, I want a light gun, but I also want a big caliber gun. What are your thoughts on, do you need the biggest caliber out there because you might run into that 8-foot grizzly that wants to eat your face? Or do you focus on your sheep hunting? Let's focus on getting you a sheep caliber, and tell me a little bit about your thoughts.
I mean, you can't base your hunt around the slim possibility of a grizzly bear chewing your face off, right? If that happens, you might as well buy a lottery ticket because it's not going to happen. It might happen, but your sheep hunt's going to be way more successful if you have a mid-range gun that you're comfortable with. And I mean, Greg touched on it earlier. The only way I would say to decipher off of that is if you were doing some sort of a combo hunt. If you're hunting with us and you got like Joe Loomis, for example, is coming to do a hunt with me on the third hunt. He's got a sheep tag. He's also got a grizzly bear tag. So for him, if he said, hey, should I bring my 6.5 or my 300? Maybe in his case, I'd say, yeah, bring your 300, right? You have a really good chance of getting both. He wants to kill both, right? That's what he's up there for. But if you're, like for yourself, Aaron, you're going sheep hunting in a week, you're sheep hunting. You don't have a goat tag. You don't have a moose tag. So bring your sheep gun, and everything else will sort itself out. Like if a grizzly bear is charging you, is a 6.5 or is a 300 going to make the difference in you being alive or not? Probably not, right? So I think absolutely base your sheep hunt out of on a sheep hunting rifle. So that's where I stand.
I agree with that 100%. Nothing's big enough when something's running you down. But the fact is, you're there to sheep hunt, bring the gun you're going to shoot the best. It's going to be lighter, more comfortable, and you just better off. It's going to be shorter, easier to smash through the brush. It's more durable in that sense. I mean, stack the deck in your favor toward what you're doing instead of
fear. Don't base it off fear. Base it off a realistic
If you're that worried about getting mauled by something, you're stay home.
Probably shouldn't be there. Absolutely.
And
for me,
sheep hunting interactions, I mean, I think all the different things, my grizzly interactions usually are on that mid-range stuff, from brush line up. Once you're in the top, usually you see the bears, but they're doing their thing, especially in August. The feed is good. They're digging up marmots and farting around like that. You don't, I'm quite relaxed when I'm sheep hunting as far as bears go. You got a bunch of dead stuff laying around camp. Take care of it. Things like that. I mean, obviously that scent's around now. But usually once you have something killed like a sheep, you're getting get-home-itis because weather's hot. You got to move that meat. You got to get things going. So you're not really leaving. You're not sitting around camp with meat for a week. Putting the calling sign out there, right? You're going to kill it, move it to camp, eat a bunch, cape everything out, deal with it, bone it down, bag it good, and then you're leaving. You're moving.
Makes sense.
you can't stick around. I mean, if it's October, sure, meat's gonna stay because it'll be frozen.
I was out shooting last night, shooting the gun that John's got me set up with, and it's a 280 Ackley improved in a Kimber Hunter through a Swarovski 3.5 to 18 on it, and he's working up a load for it and everything. And without the muzzle brake, we're going without the brake, and it kicks like a mule.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, in comparison.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
what a 5.5 pound gun
Yeah.
does in a fairly mild. Well, 280 Ackley is no slouch. I mean, it's
No.
right on the heels of 7 mag.
Yeah.
You know, so as an all-purpose gun, I mean, I'd shoot anything on planet Earth with that thing,
Yeah.
right?
that would be a great combo gun if somebody came up to do a sheep moose caribou with us.
Yep.
Something like that would be probably awesome.
Yeah.
And if they came up to do just a sheep, I would be like 6'5", 270, something like that.
Yeah.
That's way better. Greg built me a 264 Win Mag, and last year I got 2 animals by myself. I can follow that bullet's impact by myself.
I had a 264 as well with a Husqvarna. I love that gun.
They're wicked.
Yeah.
If I had a 300 by myself shooting a sheep and a goat, I'm probably, if I hit it, great. But if I didn't, man, that thing's booting me all over the place. I'm not gonna see where I'm hitting either.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm a super fan of a mid-range gun, especially if you're usually hunting with somebody, and a lot of times you have 2 guns if you do have a bear problem. So,
Yeah.
I would never base my caliber choice on
On speculation.
no way. Here to hunt sheep.
Yep.
Let's hunt sheep, man.
Any other gear information that you would put out there for anyone getting into it? We had a little discussion the other night about optics and the importance of optics and stuff. So what are your thoughts on, and we don't have to get deep into gear and stuff, but if you had a couple suggestions on what to bring.
My gear consensus is super to the point. So I'm not a gear fanatic one bit. I've also been super lucky just working in this industry. I've gotten most of the clothing and boots and that sort of thing I've got by hunters giving it to me as tips or whatever. So I don't really endorse anybody's gear. Basically, the best way I can endorse or talk about gear is to break down the amount of time you spend using each piece of gear.
Yep.
And that ultimately should be where you spend your money, right? So for me, like we talked about it the other night, and I would spend way more on my binos than I would on my sheep rifle, especially like for yourself,
A resident
Aaron.
hunter.
For a resident hunter versus going to the territories. Like we have rams that I've guided where like you literally look at them once and you're like, holy shit! Like you don't have to look at them again. That's how big they are, right? They're 6 inches over their nose. They got rings stacked in their base. We do have sheep like that still in BC, but it's really hard. A lot of the sheep we take, a lot more rams we're taking on age. We're having to get super close to verify their legality, right? So the likelihood of us
Coming into a stop.
yeah, the likelihood of us shooting a ram at 700-800 yards in BC is way less than it is in the Northwest Territories. Like I've had a few hunters kill rams in the 600 650 kind of range, and in BC, like I say, unless that ram is so obviously legal, like we're probably not going to run into that. So so for me, like as far as a gun goes, like I would make sure a gun is, I think weatherproof is 100% what you need to have.
Yeah.
And I think, accuracy, repeatability, that sort of thing. And then for all your other gear, I would just break it down as to where you use it. Like what your boots are on your feet the entire time you're hunting.
Yep.
You need good boots.
Yep.
Optics, man. The hardest part about sheep hunting to me is finding sheep. When you find the sheep or the ram that you're after, that's the hardest part.
Yep.
From there, sheep are not like whitetails, right? They have good eyes, they have good noses, but they're not like whitetails as far as their senses go. So if you find them, you have a really good chance of getting that ram. Like if you find them, especially in the territories, like if I find a ram, I instantly relax because I'm I'm gonna get you.
Yeah.
Like, I got him. You know, okay, so the wind's wrong now. He's in on the skyline. You just wait. You
Yep.
wait. He
You
makes
got
a
eyes on
mistake.
him, right? So you
You
can
wait.
watch
He
him.
makes a mistake, and you can get him. It's a little different in BC or Alberta, wherever, Alaska, where you have more hunting pressure. You got to worry about, is anybody else watching this round?
Yeah.
Right? It's a little more, not saying press the panic button, but the hunting tactics are a little bit different. So
Someone might beat you to that round that you've been watching for the last
Yeah.
3 hours.
Don't spend an extra day watching it to
Yeah.
pattern it.
No,
right? You're going to
no.
make a move. You might move in the dark to get up near it for morning, you know, to crush that distance
yeah.
and get ready, find them first light. They wake up, get them in a feed pattern, and then watch them bed down and then
yeah,
get
drop
on them,
it.
Yeah.
right? Come up and
Yeah.
get them.
Yeah.
And, you know, morning or evening, playing those thermal lines or whatever, figuring out what's going on. And, oh, yeah. No, I wouldn't say the pressure never seems to turn off for me until it's on the ground.
Yeah.
But you do, like, for instance, goats. Oh, yeah. You spot a goat, you're like, yep, I'm going to wait you out. I'll get to where I want to be, and pretty soon you're going to make a mistake, and we're going to get you. You know, it's one of those things. Sheep, yeah, I have a little more apprehensive about, of course, because it took you so long to find it. I'm always kind of like, you're always on the edge, but again, you're a lot more relaxed, like you say.
Yeah, I instantly changed. So I think that's why optics are just extremely important. And I mean, you can spend a lot of money on gear when you're starting out, but you maybe don't necessarily need to. Like, a lot of the stuff that Greg and I have, I mean, we've accumulated over a lifetime of sheep hunting, right?
Yeah.
We didn't start year one with
$5,000.
yeah, or more,
of
right?
gear.
Of
Yeah.
gear. Like, you don't even know if you're gonna like it, sheep
Yeah.
hunting yet, right? You gotta kind of wet your feet. So things like boots are super important. Backpack super important. I think rain gear is important, but I think as far as like if it's sunny out, what kind of clothes you should wear, I honestly hardly think it matters. Like, if I have a heavy pack with a sheep on the way out, I'm probably going to burn that crap, right?
Yeah.
So it honestly,
gear to-
Probably going to burn it, like every time.
I'm going to burn it. Yeah, I'm going to
That
burn it.
t-shirt's done. That pair of socks, done. You know, like,
Yeah.
drop 5 pounds.
Yeah.
There's really good things to spend your money on, and I think Steve Isdall had a good post on that, basically, and he was talking about the same stuff, like where you should spend your money, and basically like what can make or break your hunt. You know, like if your boots fall apart and your feet are full of blisters, like, honestly, unless you're the toughest guy I know, your sheep hunt's over, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
You know, if your tent rips in the wind, like, it's things like that. It's hard to recover
Hard to
from
bounce
that.
back.
So,
Yeah, just that guy we ran into when we were hunting last year with
yeah,
you.
bighorn hunting.
He went up on top of a ridge that's notoriously ridiculous for wind.
Yeah.
Gets up there with a said tent name, and we met him down on the bottom, hiding in the shadows, basically. His tent just got thrashed.
Yeah.
And he had it duct taped up and this and that done, but, I mean, if it's a wet time or whatever,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
sure. You can
Ultimately-
survive anything, but
Ultimately, he didn't get around.
nope, he was
Yeah.
done.
You know,
That
that
shut
was
him
a,
off
that
right
was a
then.
bit of a deal breaker right there. So that's my consensus on gear. How much time you're going to spend using it, and where you should spend your money. Boots and optics, I think, are super important, and
Yeah.
and everything else kind of has a
place.
falling order down from there. And
And the season. What type
Absolutely,
of season? I mean,
absolutely.
You can get away with a lot of stuff in August. I mean, worst case scenario, you get snowed on, but 2 days later it'll be 30 above.
yeah,
And if you
yeah.
can't survive 2 days of miserableness, that's you get packing.
Yeah.
Because no, I laugh. I think of the different stories about. I mean, I've went through a few tents, and leaky tents, and stories to go along with that. I mean, to the point where we had a little trough dug in the tent. We'd take turns bailing it out. That's how bad it leaked.
Yeah.
To the point where we killed a ram later on in that hunt, and a big storm just rolling over the mountains beside us, and we're working this ram down, and it's about 6 o'clock at night, and it's coming hard. Just get the ram dealt with, hit camp, straight up and down like this, throw a tent up, fall asleep. By the next morning, there was 10 gallons of water pooled up in the bottom of the tent, where I just rolled over, grabbed a knife, cut the bottom of the tent open to let the water out. Like, that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
But wrung the sleeping bag out, loaded that ram up, all smiles, man.
Yeah.
Felt like burning that tent on the spot, but so be it. I mean, and that was just so much weather on a tent that you can't take it. And then it just got to it used to be fairly dry, and then it got to its breaking point where it just, you might as well had it been in a screen hut.
Yeah.
But kept the wind off you, good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and about guns too. Like, I know up north there, you're always telling me a story about the time where, Hunter had a big caliber gun, and you guys got moving on a moose, and he's like, geez, it's a little far, and he was apprehensive to kill him with your gun, and probably one of the best moose you've ever killed, eh?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. That was.
Yeah, so I had it was the best moose I've ever got. It was with a return hunter. Hunted with him before, phenomenal guy, and it was just one of those. You can almost tell this is one of those amazing stories for me, because we. The year before, this was a spot. It's on the kind of the far edge of our area, and this was the spot where our hunter got killed by the grizzly bear. And this was a spot. Although I wasn't guiding it, I was kind of there on sort of the rescue kind of recovery mission. So this area kind of had a special place in my heart, and I just wanted to make this area right for the sake of for everybody, because it was a hard year what we went through. And so this hunter came in, Mike, return hunter, great guy, and he's like, where do you want to hunt, Nate? And I was like, I want to go to the headwaters of the Caribou Cry, and I want to get dropped off right where this happened, and we're going to hunt, and that's what we're going to do. And during the flight over there, it's about an hour and a half flight, it's a long ways away, we probably flew over, I would say, 6 to 10 moose that are 60 plus inches. I've never in my life has this ever happened to me before.
Yeah.
And Stan's like, what about that one? You guys, I could land on that gravel bar. Like, do you guys want that one? And I kind of looked at Mike, and he's like, no, let's keep going to your spot, Nate. Let's keep going to your spot. And a couple of these things were ridiculous. Like, the last couple were like, okay, Mike, this is like mid 60s. Like, are you sure? Like, let's go to my spot. And I think the last time Stan's like, you guys are crazy. But oh well. Okay. So we go to our spot. We land. Kind of right where we landed, there was kind of a mediocre bull and some cows. And it was probably the smallest moose that we had just flown over. So we're kind of like, okay, well, whatever. Okay. And the next day, we start moose hunting. We seen a couple decent moose. And then we seen this one moose that was kind of maybe 60 inches, but not a big moose. I didn't want to shoot it. My hunter kind of did. And he was a long ways away anyway. And then the weather socked in. The next morning we wake up, and I was like, Mike, I'm just gonna kind of roll over the hill from the tent and just have a quick peek. Couldn't see anything. That moose that Mike wanted was 200 yards from our tent. I came back. And Mike said, you see anything? No, not a thing.
Didn't see one at all.
Didn't see anything.
Nope.
Didn't even tell him about it, because I knew we were going to kill this moose. And it wasn't the moose that I wanted out of this. For myself, for the outfit, for everything. I just was like, this is one of those moments where we're going to get something really special.
Yeah.
And that moose ended up, I mean, he was 200 yards away. I knew exactly what he was. Basically, I watched him for 10 minutes, although I didn't tell Mike that. And it walked across the valley. The weather cleared later in the day, and we're watching that moose. And then all of a sudden, over the hill comes these 2 big sheets of plywood. And this moose absolutely dwarfed the one that was right by our tent. And I was like, Mike's like, how big is that thing? And I'm like, it's huge, man. We don't even know. Like, grab your shit, let's go.
Yeah.
It was so far away, like we couldn't get it within a day of our camp, so I had my little backpack tent. We took off after the moose. Long story short, I ended up completely botching the stalk. Basically, all of our stuff we kill is, you get above them, shoot below them. Pretty much that's how we kill 90% of our game. Doesn't matter if it's sheep, moose, whatever.
Yeah.
I ended up for some reason, thinking it was a good idea. I can weasel up this draw on the bottom. Ended up botching the stock. The moose kind of saunters out, and he's sitting there at 400 yards. And Mike's like, I can't shoot 400 yards. And I'm like, what? Like, are you serious? You can't shoot 400 yards? He's got just a 338 with a 3 to 9 scope. And this was one of those now or never moments. And I had my 270 with me with a little Huskamaw. Just literally pulled it out of my pack.
That was 270 you've had forever.
Forever.
Put a stock on it.
Yeah, forever. It's just a total bread and butter.
Yeah.
Gun. Mike laid down 400 yards. You sure, Nate? I'm like, man, you will. This thing's. It's like hitting a sheet of plywood, and this gun shoots. Like, don't worry about it. He shot the moose 3 times, literally like this at 400 yards. Whaled that thing. We went up there, and I mean, the moose was just like, it was way, way bigger than I thought it was. It was, I mean, it was 74-inch moose. It had like 54-inch pans lengthwise, right? There's a picture of me standing with the moose sideways, and the thing looks like it's a foot higher than me, because it is. Yeah. It's.
Do you have these pictures? Like, can I get you to send them to Greg?
Absolutely.
And we'll
absolutely.
throw them up for everyone to see.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's one of my great stories about a great hunting story mixed with a small caliber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biggest moose you ever shot, and bring a big gun and shoot it with a midget gun.
270, 130 grain Sierra Game King. That's what it was.
Nice.
It's the only thing that shot out of my gun.
Yeah.
And it worked.
And it's piled up so much game, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
I mean, the list is deep and long. Mm-hmm. From elk to moose. You shot even bears with that thing, too.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, it's funny how you overthink of it, but put it where it counts, and they're all tipping over.
Yeah.
Hard to live without air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
74 inches, like just ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's
got
awesome.
us all beat by a long shot.
Yeah.
And your hunter, he's massive. He's a super tall
he's
guy,
6'2", and the moose is still sideways, is over his head, right? Like, it's a cool picture.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
Unreal.
And so to kind of wrap things up, what inspires you, or who inspires you? Let's get into your heroes in the industry or your inspiration. Tell us a little bit about them.
I have 2 people who I'm going to mention. For me, I don't know. I feel like I'm inspired by just real people and just really humble people. That the first guy is Wayne Selby from the Kootenays. He guided for Stan for 20 years. When I first started guiding, Wayne was still guiding at, I think he was about 65, 67, somewhere in there. Still guiding sheep to boot, right?
Yeah.
So he's one of those guys that, although I didn't really get to personally hunt with him per se, I did a couple caribou hunts out of camp, because we don't really, our hunts are one-on-one. I don't, even if I got the legend there guiding someone else, unfortunately I don't get to hunt with him personally. So all I can do is kind of be around him, soak it all in, listen to everything he has to tell me. And actually this year I was down cat hunting in the Kootenays. Wayne lives in Cranbrook. I stopped in for a visit. And Wayne's one of these guys, he's not on social media. He hunts for what I think are just the purest reasons. And I knew he'd taken a lot of rams for himself, but I didn't really realize it. And we go downstairs into his trophy room, and it's a small room. It's smaller than my living room, and he's got 23 rams in this room. It's like rams stacked on top of rams, doll sheep, bighorn sheep, stone sheep, and it's just like, wow, in a lifetime of guiding, he's guided over 100 rams.
Yep.
He's taken 20 some rams for himself, and he's a huge inspiration to me. And one thing that I look at when I think of a good sheep hunter, I think is somebody that's a versatile sheep hunter. For yourself, Aaron, like you're just starting to get into it. If you would have got into it maybe 10 years earlier, it would have been easier. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But when you go to the Northwest Territories or the Yukon, I can't even describe how much easier and how much better the sheep hunting is. There's just not the pressure that we have here. There's more sheep. So there's a lot of people that have done extremely well guiding and hunting Northwest Territories, and then come down to BC, and I mean, they can't even get a mountain goat, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of have almost a red flag going off, and Wayne's one of these guys that it doesn't matter what the situation, what he was hunting, he found success in every aspect of sheep hunting, because Dall sheep hunting, stone sheep hunting, bighorn, they're all similar, but they all have very big differences in them, right? Bighorns spend a huge part of their life in the timber, right? They move more than Dall sheep. They move more than stone sheep. Dall sheep are way more habitual. So for somebody like him to be successful in all of those realms of sheep hunting, wherever you throw him here, you throw him there, and every time he's got a dead ram on his back, and it's a good one. And I'm just like, he's just always had my respect for that. Yeah. And I guess the second guy I would touch on is a guy. So it was probably about 7 years ago. Me and my brother went ibex hunting over in Kyrgyzstan, which is something I would recommend to anybody, by the way. But the guide I had was incredible. One of those people that's just amazing abilities, amazing at what he did. And the guide my brother had was just like your kind of average run-of-the-mill guide that every outfitter's got 5 too many of those ones, right?
Yeah.
And not enough of the good ones, right?
Yeah.
So this dude I had, I got paired with him, and I mean, I got all the best gear money can buy over there. I had the new Swarovski EL rangefinder binos. This guy had these ancient old, like, Russian military optics. I looked through them like I couldn't see anything through these things. Like, they were complete shit.
Yeah.
And he's wearing rubber boots, right? He's nothing. These are extremely poor people.
Yep.
And he's spotting everything. And usually when I go hunting with people, I usually outspot them. That's my niche. That's my jam.
Yeah.
And this guy, I couldn't, like, he was just lighting me up with the optics, right? He spotted a Marco Polo ram. You could literally see this much of the sheep's lamb tip on a hillside, like this, right? He's like, Marco Polo, and he can't speak English. So all he can say is big, shoot, and Marco Polo and ibex, right? Those are the 4 words in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, and hungry, he does this. Are you hungry, right? So this is our limited vocabulary.
Yeah.
But this guy's ability, and I mean, I take good care of myself. I'm super fit. And another like, this guy is chewing up the mountain, and I'm like, this guy, how does he do it?
He's in gumboots.
He's 50 years old. He's got a dart hanging out of his mouth. He's got the worst binoculars. I looked through them. I almost got a migraine instantly, right?
Yeah.
And this guy was just another one of these guys that's just super humble, led by example. Chinnebek was his name. He barely said anything. But whenever he did say something, he would be sitting around camp. The outfitter would be gabbing. All the other guides are blabbing, which is common in any hunting camp. And this guy just sat there. And when he talked, I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. Everybody just completely shut up, listened to everything he had to say. And although he was just a guide, he was absolutely the alpha male of that hunting camp.
Yep.
And he's just somebody that's... I always thought to myself, how many other people are like that out there that you don't hear of because they just hunt because they love hunting. They're not into promoting themselves.
They're not superstars. Yeah.
They're just like, and I those are just 2 people for me that, you know, unfortunately social media has a way of twisting things as to who's the best sheep hunter, and I don't honestly know who the best sheep hunter is, and I don't even care, to be honest with you, because like I was telling you, every aspect of sheep hunting is different. A bighorn guide, his job is 100 times harder to get a ram than a Dall sheep guide. Most of us Dall sheep guides, 2-3 days, we're back at camp, caping our rams and drinking beer, and those guys, their hunt's barely begun. Like, they're still catching horses and trailing in. They probably haven't even seen a sheep yet. Like, it's completely apples and oranges. So those are just 2 people that have just sort of overcome a lot of adversity, that they've stuck with me. They're ingrained in me, and they always will be. They're 2 of my biggest inspirations in the hunting world. So
Sounds like great guys to look up to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And learn a lot from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
4 words, but good words.
That's all you need.
Big shoot.
Big
eh?
shoot, hungry, Marco Polo and Ibex. That's it, man.
That's it.
Yeah, everything else was Russian or whatever he was
Kyrgyz.
telling me. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, thank you very much, Nathan, for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
No problem. This was an excellent second podcast. And Yukon Peak Outfitters, he's got it on his hat. We'll put a link to their social media and information along with that. But we will, like I say, we'll throw links up to Yukon Peak Outfitters. And reach out to Nathan if you're looking to book a hunt next year, the year after. It's never too early to start booking. So shout out to Black Rifle Coffee Company Canada. And if you have any suggestions for any of our follow-up podcasts, please put them in the comments below and like and follow us. Thanks for tuning in.